law enforcement was willing to violate their oaths to uphold the Constitution, which they were, and they always have been. So the psychopaths have plenty of young men who are stupid, uneducated in the Constitution, full of testosterone, and they're willing to act belligerently in defense of unconstitutional laws and of the unconstitutional sociopath-dominated paradigm. So in 1850, Northern courts realized that although there were all these psychopathic or psychopath-directed young men, stupid young men, full of testosterone and willingness to be violent, even though there were plenty of those types of people, the fugitive slave law was still unenforceable because so many people, so many Northerners were against it. So many of these people of conscience in the North were against it. And because the churches were against it, generally in the North. And the churches were only against it in the North because their membership was against it in the North. So the church leadership caters to the membership because the church vies with the state for the appearance of authority. And these are authorities that are top-down granted authorities. They're not logically deserved authorities of both church and state. So in any case, the way that it worked was that prosecutors realized that they couldn't enforce the fugitive slave law. Prosecutors were working for the state attorney generals, and the prosecutors got together with the judges, and many of the judges were ex-prosecutors, so they had also the idea that every law is legitimate simply because the legislature dreams it up and writes it down and takes a vote on it. And so that class of people are also sociopathic. And if you think about every single prosecutor and every single judge and every single legislator, it's way less than than 4% of society. And psychiatrists estimate that 4% are biologically sociopathic, between 2 and 4%. And it's between, probably 2 and 4% of males, and 1 and 3% of females are biological sociopaths. And obviously, a sociopath with testosterone is more dangerous than a female sociopath. So, in any case, we lost all of the freedom to the extent that we lost statistical control over juries. And statistical control is control without the appearance of control, so it's far more effective at exerting a systemic control, at essentially creating a means of preying on people. Because if somebody is a very difficult prey item, the predator will just prey on someone else. They'll just focus on someone else. The idea of a free country, though, a free market, is that you can put out information about products, and that information can be cutting edge and revolutionary and totally different from everything that currently exists. And that even if that's the case, and you're therefore in a position of weakness because you're a tiny minority that is now competing in the marketplace, even if you're a tiny minority competing in the marketplace, you have a right to compete in that marketplace and to spread your ideas and information and advertisements and compete in that marketplace simply because you are an individual that has property rights. And what happens in a sociopathic system is that anyone who is a minority is preyed upon by the majority because they are unable to defend themselves, assuming that there's some way that the sociopaths can turn the bigoted and stupid majority against them. So the way that we lost all of our freedom in this country is by slow erosion statistically to the jury selection of empaths. Because there are so many people who are empaths, if you're going to have a few intelligent and self-educated empaths in any population, and those intelligent and self-educated empaths are going to refuse to vote guilty in any victimless crime case. And a victimless crime case goes far beyond what's conventionally considered a victimless crime case, such as a marijuana case or a victimless gun case. It's not just property possession that constitutes a victimless crime. It's also non-compliance with illegitimate regulations, non-compliance with tax requirements, tax non-payment. So jury nullification of law, as it's called, or jury independence, the right to selectively enforce the law based on moral agreement or disagreement with the law. If you agree with the law and you believe that the law has been violated in a specific case, you can vote guilty. And if you believe that the law is illegitimate or doesn't apply in a certain case the way that the prosecutor and judge are claiming it does, then you can vote not guilty. So that was the only limit on government power, is jury discretion and the jury's ability to nullify the law. That was the only strong limit that we ever had on government power, and the only thing that separates a republic from a monarchy or other form of totalitarian dictatorship is its ability to limit government power. All the other stuff about checks and balances, it's all irrelevant bullshit. It doesn't really make a difference, and it doesn't have any impact where the rubber meets the road. In terms of procedure on a day-to-day basis, when there are no contests of power, yeah, sure, that's the form of organization that the Founding Fathers wanted, and it makes a small difference. It makes a tiny difference. It doesn't make much of a difference in people's day-to-day lives or in whether illegitimate laws are going to be enforced or not. It makes a difference in how the attorney generals are going to be selected, per se. It makes a difference in how the various executive structures of government will be populated, and it makes a difference in the administration of elections. And elections are important, and elections will continue to be important. Even were we to proceed largely in the direction of anarchy, elections would still be important, because the election is going to determine how the police power is wielded and whether or not there's a constitutional sheriff. So if there is a constitutional sheriff, then that constitutional sheriff can theoretically choose to nullify state law. And that sheriff, if he nullifies state law, is going to have the ability to hire deputies or not hire deputies, and all of the law enforcement, constitutionally speaking, should be deputies. There should be no police department, there should be no police. The police actually line up under a mayor, under the police chief, and that's not a constitutional position. It's not an elected position, and it winds up actually corrupting the entire nation and allowing the police to enforce any law, no matter how illegitimate, when you have a police chief. Take, for instance, the psychopathic totalitarian asshole that ruined Newark, New Jersey. Even at a time when Newark, New Jersey was widely considered to be a failing police state, and the police had the practice of just arresting 100 black people in a black area of the city and hauling them down to the police station and chaining them to the wall, and then entering their information, coercing them to give their information with no warrants whatsoever, chaining them to the wall, and then searching for warrants, outstanding warrants on all of them. And the outstanding warrant could be for something like an escalated traffic offense, and or a victimless drug offense, or the fact that they had to show up for work and missed a parole officer's hearing. So all of that was completely grotesque, and this police chief, Gary McCarthy, being recruited from Newark, New Jersey after he had completely failed in Newark, New Jersey, and it had resulted in a rampant police state. He gets recruited by Rahm Emmanuel to be the police chief of Chicago. And that just shows that the general public isn't going to pay any attention, the fact that they allowed that to happen. And then after that, you had the shooting of a young boy in Chicago, and it blew up in their faces. because Emmanuel had basically signaled to the police that they would completely not be held accountable in the way that they enforced their grotesque war on some drugs. So, to restore the republic, we have to restore proper jury operation. And that's a matter for my other videos. This has already gone on long enough.